the old way of traveling. Pick a nice hotel in the hotel district, and I'm gonna get an all-inclusive and a pina colada, and I'm gonna hang out with other tourists and do tours, and then I'm gonna leave. And there's like this checklist of here are all the things that I need to do when I go to this place. And then once I've done that checklist, then I've experienced that place. Just get rid of it. Because how do you actually experience a place? By crossing things off a checklist. There's no way to know what a place is unless you really experience it like a local. I'm Dan Sherman, and I am naked. Yeah, I've been traveling for 3 years, numbers, as a digital nomad. And what I would always do is I would pick a place, go for 1 month, get an apartment, and really live my life there. I know for most people, and definitely for most Americans, we don't have the luxury of taking a month off to travel. Of course, right now, many of you are working remote and you do have that opportunity, in which case I have another video on what to do now that you're a digital nomad. Once the world reopens and travel is safe, once the world does reopen, now that we have time to plan our dream trip, I want to give you 5 tips to travel like a local with Daniel Sherman. How is this real life? Step 1, before the journey begins, really think about what is the best destination given what I want to experience. People ask me all the time based on my travels, where are my favorite places? Where would you recommend I travel to? And the answer is, it depends on what you want to experience. Some places are known for their art, beaches, nature, kind people and their hospitality, while other places are way harder to crack. So I think it's important to really think about, what is it that I want to experience? Make a list for yourself. I want a relaxing beach trip, amazing food. And when you have your list, then you can start to research or ask around to find a city or a country that justifies that. And I think it's important to recognize that, every country is diverse. So it's not just like, I really want to go to France, but I want to have a relaxing beach trip, so I need to go somewhere else. There are way more interesting places outside of the big tourist cities. So this is where the research comes in. Really ask around, do some Googling, and find a place that best fits your needs. And then that's where we start. Step 2, now that we know where we're going, we need to figure out where to stay. And this is just as important as the city itself, because most cities, especially tourist cities, have tourist zones or have centers of tourism. And if we really want to live like a local, these are the places that we want to avoid. Don't stay in a tourist area, stay in a local area. We ask around our network to see if anyone's ever lived there before, not traveled there, lived there. We can find a blog, or we can go on a Facebook group or a different online community of people that live in that place and start to explore what are the different neighborhoods. For me, I always Google the city and I search where is the best place to live. There is always going to be a blog written by a local that describes the different neighborhoods. One trick that I have that works every time is I find a cool looking cafe. It's very intentional because I work from my computer, so I need to have a cool place to work. So I know that this is going to be my kind of home base. If you can find a cool cafe outside of the tourist center, then you know that that's more than likely going to be where there are cool people living. You can do the same thing with art galleries, theaters, or more underground, smaller music venues. Find your niche. And then for me, I always look on Airbnb or HomeAway, or there are home swapping things you can do. If you're on a budget, there are even websites that you can look for people specifically who can just stay in their homes or watch their pets or work away or things like that. There are plenty of different ways to travel on a budget, specifically moving away from hotels and into these alternative ways to stay. And I'll find the one close to that cafe. For me, I always pick the one close to the cafe because I know that I need to do work in the morning and it's hard for me to get out of bed. So this way I can get up, crawl to my little cafe, and there you go. Step 3 is to research basic local information. I think it's important as a tourist to be respectful of local culture and customs, and especially if we're wanting to fit in with the locals and meet local people, it's important that we understand basic facts. I'm not saying read a book or a significant amount of research. I say just understand how to not be offensive. if that's too much to ask. Things like tipping customs, things like some basic words in the language. And even sometimes as a trick, I'll wait until I'm in my taxi ride from the airport and I talk to my taxi driver. A lot of taxi drivers are bilingual. They speak basic English. So I ask them, how do I say hello, thank you, please? Because if you can at least get those down and people see that you're trying, the amount of respect that you get increases exponentially from especially us Americans who walk in, shouting in English. Number 4. Check local events calendars, check for local workshops, check for classes that you like, but check for things that you would normally do at home. Like if you love dancing and you're in Spain, take a flamenco class. They have dancing, they have music, they have art, they have exercise, they have all these things everywhere around the world, but it can also be this really interesting cultural experience and a way to meet interesting local people. For instance, I live in Copenhagen. I'm standing in the Saturday night market right now. This is a really, really great chance to interact with locals, to experience local Thai culture, to eat Thai street food. So even though I'm in my home place, I still get to have this kind of like cool, unique Thai experience. And that's the thing about living like a local or traveling like a local is it's about immersing yourself, but it's also about being true to yourself. Because if you're doing things that you love, then you're gonna meet people who have similar interests to you, and that's how you make friends around the world. And number 5, meet people. That's the most important aspect of traveling like a local. Anywhere you go is meet local people, and it's so easy to do. Even for me, as someone who, as hard as it is to believe, is a bit introverted and has a hard time putting myself out there and meeting new people, there are ways to do it that feel organic, that feel authentic to you. I'm trying to learn Thai now. เรียนภาษาไทย
you learn ภาษาไทย แล้วก็ขนมไทยไง
ขนม What are these called?
ปักโก้
Pakko? For instance, if you're staying in an Airbnb, ask your Airbnb host if them and their friends are going out and if you can go out with them, or ask them for their suggestions on where you can visit like a local. Where do you and your friends like to go out at night? Are you guys going out? Do you mind if I come join you? 9 times out of 10, if you're a nice person, they're going to say yes. And then you automatically have people you can hang out with. The other tool that works is Tinder. But when I was traveling for years, I would use Tinder as a way to meet local people. So I ended up downloading Tinder, and I specifically put in this city for these dates, just looking for people to meet up with and making friends everywhere I go. What ends up happening is when you walk in with the pretense of, I'm just looking to meet interesting people and to have cool local experiences. I've met the most wonderful people. I've made amazing friends around the world, and they've taken me to their favorite local places, and so I end up finding places that I would have never found otherwise because I had people on the ground who can take me there. Just do it. Just travel like a local. Travel like a local. It's great. Highly recommend it. This is not an ad for Airbnb, but if they want to pay me for this, then I'm totally open to that as well. I'm Dan Sherman. Thank you for joining me in my home abroad in Koh Phangan, Thailand, and I will see you next time on How Is This Real Life? How is this real life? How is real life? What am I don't know what I'm doing. If you're staying, well, mask. All right, no, keep the mask on. What the am I talking about? I'm still naked.